Hello, everyone, and welcome to Handmade Hero, the show where we code a complete game live on the stream. And we are really just going back to what we were doing when we stopped last week. We were in the middle of just finishing up our tag stuff, and we had a lighting problem that we wanted to look into. And really, that's all we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Handmade directory here and open up 4Coder. Or not. Oh, you know what I just realized? I didn't run the shell. It's misc shell.bat. There we go. So if I remember correctly, there's really 2 or 3 things we still had left to do. I'm gonna open up Remedy here and just show you. So one problem is that we had kind of like a weird lighting a bug, which appears to be related to like too large of values contaminating the lighting. So, you can see like if I'm hopping around here, I can do what I would normally expect to do, and the lighting appears to be correct for the most part. But then I end up in a situation where occasionally, and it's a tricky problem because there doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason to it. Like, it just kind of happens sometimes. And it is not happening now, unfortunately. But the lighting will just become infinitely bright. And it looked like this was just maybe a problem with some out-of-bounds computation or some kind of uninitialized values seeping in there. But we don't know. So unfortunately, that's like seeming to be a little bit difficult to repro at the moment. And so I don't actually know what we would do about that. We're going to have to try and get a more provocable case than this. But there it is. I'm like, trust me, it's there. So you can see this, and it appears to be a thing where you end up with values that contaminate, right? There's some really high light value, and because we know lighting values in our system propagate, like one really out of bounds value would in theory propagate to all the cells eventually, which is what I assume is happening. So I think we just have a bug where we compute something poorly, or we've got some kind of way that a trash value can get in there. And it may be as simple as us just guarding against that, but we need to kind of find that, because we can see that it happens, and it happens maybe only rarely, but rarely in this case is, it would certainly happen during the play of the game. It's frequent enough that would happen. So we know we got to fix it. It's not a 1 in a billion thing. So we should look at that. And then the other thing that we know is busted is we just haven't ported some of the tag stuff yet. For example, here is the title screen. When we go to, when it's supposed to play the cutscenes, you can see that it's not finding the actual graphics, or at least I assume that's what's happening. And I believe that's just our tag system is being slightly busted there. So what we need to do is we just need to look at why it's not finding those particular resources. If I go to the tags and I look at the intro cutscene HHT, you can see the tags here are like shot index 1, layer index 1, like that kind of stuff, right? I don't actually know what we're doing inside the cutscene at the moment to find these things. So it may be that we're just doing something stupid, but whatever it is, we need to go figure out like why it can't find it. So if you look here, we have a get tag hash that is, looking at the layer index 1 plus whatever the layer index was supposed to be, and then like a shot tag. So in theory, the shot tag needs to be like intro cutscene shot index 1 would be what should be in that tag. And I don't know if that is what's in the tag, so we just need to go see, like, are we picking these correctly that way? What's going on. So you can see here where we've got like our shot information. You can see here that it's intro cutscene Um, so it looks here like there's only one tag shot index here. So I guess I'm not sure I understand where intro cutscene is coming from. So is that getting bundled up in here or something? Because that would be a problem. So I think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but it kind of looks like actually like just tag intro cutscene is missing. That might be the only problem, is that we weren't providing the intro cutscene tag. So it didn't know what cutscene we were trying to load. That might be it. I don't know, but we should at least fix that first. Yeah. So it looks like that may have been all there is. Let's just double check. So yeah, so that turned out to not be a big deal. So that's fine. We also have the trees is the other one, so we'll go double check that as well. Sorry, I just want to make sure we wait long enough to know that there's no weirdness going on here. Yangshin Lee did this artwork for someone's asking. I don't see anything missing, so I mean we could probably stop now, but I'm just, you know. Are you in Texas? Are you asking me if I'm in Texas? I am not in Texas. Why, thank you, Dusty Dino. So that's all the cutscenes, right? So that looks totally correct. Like I don't see anything weird going on there. Um, so I think we're good. So I think the only other tag issue that we had on the list is that if we go to an outside area, um, we don't have trees, right? Like, you could... Oh my gosh. The baby is there. That's just a weird, like, placement bug. I guess there's, like, a baby there. Hold on a second. We should at least align the baby. We don't want our game to have a baby with no head. That would be a very different kind of game. That'd be like one of those, like horror games, like Silent Hill or something. So hold on a second. Let's make one of those bind points. Something like that, probably. And there. Okay. Now our baby is better. Much better. All right. So, what we need here is to figure out why our trees aren't there, and, you know, I think that's probably just because when we change the tags, we just haven't updated the thing that actually puts the trees in to use the correct set of tags. So I don't think this is going to be particularly interesting, but we need our trees back. Also, it was kind of nice that our trees were not there because it means we got to see the fact that our baby was there. I guess the system was randomly placing the babies in there because we had kind of thrown in that thing that throws like people up in the corner like that. Oh my god, dude, nobody puts baby in a corner except us. Like, we put baby in a corner. Like, we put baby in a corner. There is baby. Baby is in a corner. I feel like that's like a violation of the meme. Nobody puts baby in a corner because we literally put the one baby that exists in this game into a corner. So, all right, let's take a look at what's going on with the trees here. And then that'll be the last thing before, like, then we just have to look at, what's going on? Stop this. Stop, everyone. Okay. We've got it all. We need to look at the intro cutscene HHT. I also need to make note of a 4-coder thing to fix there. We need per character file delete. So looking at this stuff here, we just need to grab the base game HHT and look at those trees because we know that the trees are busted. You can see we've got like a damaged tree, a fall tree, a dark tree, a winter tree, and I'm guessing we just don't set any of this stuff correctly in the generator now. Like, the generator probably just doesn't do that. Somewhere here, somebody is setting tree to something, and we have no idea who it is. So let's see. This is all debug stuff, which we don't care about. It looks like this is the thing that adds the tree. I don't see anything else. So it looks like this. So here we're like adding trees. Get tree tags. And yeah, that's totally wrong, I think, because there's no actual tree in here, right? So I assume we would have to at least put the tree thing in there. I mean, I could be wrong, but let's find out. Why do we have, oh, right, it's this, okay. So I think that's all we would need to do is just put tree, because it looks like we have damaged, tree, dark, and winter. And so in get tree tags, we really just need to make sure that before we pick one of those, we put in a tag tree. I think that's it. But I don't know. So let's take a look. Yeah, so I think that was it, because like there's trees now. It does look like we're grabbing some trees that are not what we would expect. Like we're grabbing some non-winter trees, which I don't know, maybe we were expecting. Also, they're tiny, which may just be that may just be some kind of an artifact of settings. I'm not sure about that. Like, is that just the scale? It is. So I think that's just because maybe we weren't using these trees before. So it may just be like that this scale needs to be changed to something higher. So like that. I don't know. So you can see these are 2, 4, 8, 43, 22. So I don't know if they should be similar. Like I don't really know how these should be situated. I guess I should probably go in here and actually look. I mean, that kind of seems right. I don't know. It's kind of tough to tell. I should probably have something that turns off foliage just so it's a little easier to see. But yeah, I mean, it just looks like these were just never configured is really the only problem. It looks like otherwise they're fine. All right. I'm satisfied with that for now. So let's see if we restart the game if now we've got proper trees. Looks like we do. All right. So that seems fine. I do feel like these are not quite aligned properly, so let me just fix those a little bit more. It looks like they kind of need to be more like that, just to be consistent. I think. I mean, again, pretty hard to say. That seems about right, though. All right. Okay. So I think at this point we are mostly done with any tag stuff we needed to do. And we really now just need a way to figure out our lighting bug, I think. And I guess I would say the biggest issue we're going to have here is just the lack of ability to provoke this bug. It would be really nice if we could find some way to make it happen reliably, right? So it would be really nice if we could do something that would, cause it to screw up the lighting in some way that we knew we could make it happen. And I sort of was doing this before. That's weird. But it just seems like we've got some weird stuff that got introduced. So I don't know. Um, yeah, like what is going on there, right? That also kind of seems like a bug, like a lighting style, like Nan-ish sort of thing to me. Like it just seems like stuff's a little bit weird. Um, and then it fixed itself, right? It's weird. Very disturbing. So how do I want to go about finding this? I suppose so we sort of have one thing that we already can do, which is we're looking at we already have the thing that does the like show us, show us the out of bounds values, right? Because we have the thing, yeah, like why did that make it happen? Super annoying. So we already have the thing that like does that shows the spec valid and diffuse valid, which looks like it correlates with it a little bit, but you can see like here when we do that, the spec valid becomes invalid temporarily and then becomes valid again, which is so weird. Like that would mean that there's some very large values somewhere in our lighting grid, and we just don't know where they are. So like I would really love to know where those values are and why. You know what I'm saying? And why it's inconsistent. So why did it like do that a couple times? Like why is spec invalid right now? You know what I mean? Like where are the invalid specular and diffuse entries? You know? So here's our validator. These are relatively tight bounds, but even so, they're pretty wild. Like I don't know what the max light value is at the moment, but I think we had something and it was not that high, right? So max light intensity is 10. So like in order to have a number over 100, you would have to be like receiving contributions from lots of full bright lights. I don't know. We should take a look at some stuff here. So is max light emission a thing? Yeah, I don't think so. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to see why we're getting these values. So something over 100 just should not be happening. Let's verify that we're getting mostly positive and not negative. So I'm going to if zero this out. And I'm going to say that it's a valid component if C is greater than or equal to like negative 0.1. So like anywhere basically, like any place where we get a significant negative value would invalidate the region. Which number is this? Says 7. So we're saying that there's actual negative numbers there. I mean, am I right about that? Like, wouldn't that would have to be the case, right? We're looping over texels, and like we're having negative 0.1, which is crazy. So let's just see, like, let's just go find out what the heck is happening there, because that's nuts. Like, are we not looping over the texels properly? Did nobody like clear these or something, so they're just garbage values? You know, like, what happened? Because that's just ridiculous. And so we kind of need to figure out like why we're getting something that happens that way. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm going to go ahead and switch to debug. So I just want to do an OD here. And then I'm gonna break when result is negative. So I'm going to provide a line for myself there that I can use to break into the code. So on validate text component here in the Atlas code, I'm just going to go ahead and break there. And let's take a look. That code is right here, and I am going to put a breakpoint there. So now when we run, in theory, we should get a situation at some point where we... So this is good that this happened again, because last time this happened, George was saying that the problem was because Handmade Hero hadn't loaded the executable yet, but that's obviously not true, right? So there is some problem that's going on with Remedy BG lately, where like it can't set a breakpoint, even though like I've definitely loaded like there's no question this is loaded, right? I mean, how could it not be loaded? Because if it wasn't loaded, like how is it doing? I mean, how it's like this in order for this to happen, this has to have, in order for this to print out a value, this code has to have ran, right? So it seems like it isn't or shouldn't be possible for me to be seeing what I'm seeing on the screen and not actually be able to set a breakpoint here. That's just, I don't know. So I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know why that's happening, but it comports with what I saw before, and so I really don't think this has anything to do with not having loaded yet, because by the time you see this on the screen, everything's loaded, and this is definitely loaded, right? Now, it might be something to do with like when you've loaded Remedy or something. Like maybe I need to restart it or something, or maybe I need to rebuild because it doesn't like this particular build, but something's borked and I don't know what it is. If I step in, so if I set a breakpoint, like can I set a breakpoint at like validate Atlas? So like that's even weirder. Like what is happening? Is this some other Handmade Light Atlas or something? So something's super weird there, right? Because, like, it does. Oh, the file is loaded twice. That like switched files. Did you see that, George? Something's really weird about that. I have Handmade Light Atlas twice up there, right? So it's just loaded multiple times. It could very well be that it's not disambiguating the file names. It could very well be. Why wouldn't it always load from the substid drive, though? I don't know. But yeah, you're going to have to disambiguate those names for sure, right? Like, you got to call the, like, canonical, the name canonical random crap in Windows. But why? We should have been having this problem a lot. Maybe this is because of something they changed in the PDB is why it's happening now, because that would have been happening to us the whole time and it's never happened before, right? That's great that we got to the bottom of that, though. How can I find out the full path? Copy full path. Yeah, so that's busted. Where is that coming from? Is that because the PDB is now baking C: in there? I wonder if if Microsoft changed the way they're building the PDBs to now use a canonicalized non-substid name. So if that's the case, that's almost certainly what's going on then. They probably did that. And if that's the case, it means that if I close all of these tabs, so they're all gone, right? Then I should, quote unquote, never have this problem if I don't load a file myself, right? Because it will always pick the C: one here, because that will be the only thing that's in the PDB. So we should be able to work around this problem for now by just getting rid of all of my files. And now, in theory, right, all of the files will always come from C:. But now that I've done that, we can now watch as well and see. I bet that is what, I bet that's exactly what Microsoft did. It's the kind of thing they would do and not tell anyone because they didn't know they did it, like, because they don't even know how to program Windows, so they probably just changed which stupid C# thing they call from in the middle of their compiler, like 50,000 stack entries deep, and then forgot that that thing will canonicalize the file or something, right? That's probably what happened. Anyway, doesn't matter. I think we've got it now. So that's good. Okay. So let's take a look. We're probably going to have to try to provoke this bug a little bit here, but we just need to find a case where it's not valid, or hope that we hit a case where it's not valid, but, you know, who knows. So, yeah, of course, unfortunately, it's doesn't seem to be hitting that particular case, and like now, our spec valid and diffuse valid are never triggering, but, you know, this is par for the course with the Heisenbug. And one thing that I will say as well that makes me, like, extremely unhappy about this, one thing that makes me upset is I don't actually know that this isn't some weird release mode only thing. So, like, if I'm really hoping this is not like a Microsoft compiler thing. If this turns out to be a Microsoft compiler thing, I'm going to be so unhappy. But like we were seeing those spec valid and diffuse valid things were like wrong all the time in release mode. Like you didn't really have to do anything to make them go wonky. Um XX the big info or whatever. We don't actually have any different. We have FP fast in both. Now it may be that when you have OD on, it just doesn't do it. But either way, I mean, most of our lighting code is SIMD. So like, there is no. I don't even know what FP fast would even really be doing all that. That's all that interesting. Which is not to say that it might not be the case. I just don't know. Is this guy gonna hop left forever? Whoa. How did I pick up an... What is happening? How did I gather this little dude? That's pretty impressive. So how did I end up doing this? What is causing that? I'm very interested to know now. So since we're in debug mode, we should be able to look at how we were able to acquire this skull friend. I don't know what you want to call that, but we definitely have acquired a skull friend, right? Skull friend is like is like attached to us. It's like the skull friend is attached to our hat currently, right? So if you look, it looks like the skull friend is literally like on our hat. There's nothing particularly weird about it. It's just a skull friend. And somehow it's attached to our hat. Let's take a look in the brain code. So I can't open a file, right? Because that'll open the wrong one. So I need to just look in here and then set the breakpoint via name. So if I go in here and just do execute brain, I'll just set one there so that we can load the file. Yeah. So I'll look inside execute brain and I'll just stop on the snake ones because I'm pretty sure these are all gonna be brain snake, right? And hopefully we should be able to see like the snake parts somehow. I guess the problem is we don't know really which one we're looking at, but somehow one of these got like attached to the hero. And I suppose it could be, well, I'm trying to think if there's any way it could be the hero controller controlling it. I mean, you would think it would kind of have to be, because if the it would have to be disconnected from this brain now, actually. So really, I guess it would have to go through here, wouldn't it? So let's take a look at that. And let me take a look at head. Head, body, glove. So here there's really only just these three. And nothing else that comes through this routine ever This is a puzzler. I don't even know if I can think of how it would be able to do that. Like, it's hopping along with me, right? It's actually leading me. It's leading me. Like, it's got, like, the place where, like, when my head goes in that direction, its head goes all the way over there. And then it actually does a jump. That's really amazing. I literally can't think of how we're able to do that. It even takes it even picks the correct facing direction for the skull. I'm sure this is just a case of the fact that, like, I haven't programmed on this game in a really long time, because we were away for a bit and we were doing, like, lighting for a really long time. So I'm sure it's just a case of, like, if my brain was more up to speed on the entity system, it can't be as amazing as it seems. But it almost looks like someone added a bunch of code to do this on purpose, because if you asked me to do this, if you're like, "Oh, can you attach a skull to the person's head that, like, hops along, but not directly attached to the head. It kind of just does its own hop, right? And it follows it and all that." I'd be like, "Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to add, right? We're like, I would have said we would have to add, um, wait a minute. Maybe not. Okay, so let's see here. Add player. So does it always do... Aha. Yes. I think I see what's going on now. Hmm. Okay, so maybe what happened here is that somehow, and this is not really a solution to how the bug started, but it's at least a solution to how the bug is happening. I forgot that we don't currently actually use the head. The head is just a piece that's placed on the body. You can see that here, right? So the entity for the body is actually just has all the assets placed on it, right? So there's the glove entity, and that has a glove asset that we're drawn where it is. And then there's the body entity, and that has the body, the head, and the hat. Like, all of those are all on there. So the head actually doesn't normally have anything associated with it, actually. So did it somehow get a piece associated with it magically? So let's look at that first. So if I reset this breakpoint inside here, we should be able to look at the head and see if now it actually has, yes. So that's what happened. That's what actually happened. So normally the head would have no pieces associated with it, and somehow it ended up getting the pieces for a skull thing, right? So presumably this is a case of the code not... Like, it could just be a case of the code not initializing something properly. So, like, when an entity got unpacked, it didn't, like, clear it. Or something. So let's... Before we kill this, because, you know, I don't actually know that we've quite tracked it down. But when we unpack an entity, so you can see, like, we've got all this stuff that we do. Didn't we just have a function called fill unpacked entity? So why can't I find that? Fill unpacked entity. There we go. So you can see here where we do our copy and clear, we grab the entity data that we were unpacking. We clear the part that that is not saved. What does register entity do? So I want to see what happens in acquire unpacked entity slot. So if you retrieve one of these, you're assuming you're going to romp over the whole thing, which I think is going to happen. My guess is that that couldn't possibly produce the over problem. The part where we need to allocate a new world chunk. So yeah, like this part here, I'm a little nervous about. So when we get a world chunk, do we actually clear that out before we provide it back? Because that may just be it, right? Like this used chunk space thing. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say that is the problem. So it looks like in here we don't actually clear this out when we go to make a new entity, right? So if we're going to create a new entity into this chunk, it doesn't look like we ever clear it, which would be a bug. You know what I'm saying? My question is, where does that actually happen? And let's just see. No, we do. So it looks like we do always clear it. I mean, that's going to clear that whole piece of memory, right? So if every time we create an entity, we clear it, when we do the copy, we copy. So that's going to romp the whole thing with valid stuff. So I guess, I don't know. What are some clues we could look for here that would tell us how this happened? I'm a little bit interested to know. So all that would have, like literally the only thing that would have to happen is that brain ID's value would get set to 1, because the rest of this stuff is already right. Like even just a cleared entity would have these set. So it's only this that's actually a thing, right? That all seems unremarkable because this is just it setting things like the color and, you know, and the dimension and so on. So the things that are set to dim 1.5, like this has to, and with piece count 2, I assume that has to be the snake. So, like, I'm guessing that if we look, we would see no. So we would see in here, like, the snake would be like a 1.5 kind of a thing. Yeah. So add brain. That. Aha. So now we may be getting somewhere. Aha. Yeah, okay. This is just a case of me not remembering what we did, right? So here's what actually happened. Right? Yeah, everyone sees it now, right? Yeah. Y'all see it? Does the chat? I'm looking at the chat window. Do you see the bug? Do you know what the bug is now? I mean, I could still be wrong. We haven't actually gone and like looked at it, but no one's going to answer. No one's going to raise their hand. Okay, class, who wants to tell me what the bug is? You have enough information to know what the bug is now, unless I'm wrong, which I could be. Flora's lava, like, raised. Is that you raising your hand? Enemy Panda, you were on Reddit. How are you going to find a bug on Reddit? The whole thing is a bug. Enemy Panda, do you have diamond hands? That's my question. Are you making crazy money on stonks? Yeah, somebody took my names, got it. And Moache, you've got it only backwards. All right. So the problem is we had this concept of a reserved brain ID here, but it looks like at some point we just got rid of it because add brain is like not using that. Right? So as a result, it means like that. So I think we were just trying to be saucy and we were like, oh, we can have our brain IDs just use this because since everything goes through a hash table, it doesn't matter, right? But the problem is we had used an allocation scheme for brains for heroes here where rather than calling add brain, we just used like, and I don't actually know why. Like, I don't know why this doesn't call add brain or why we had reserved brains in the first place. There may have been a reason. It may be that that reason is gone, in which case we could fix this bug by just calling add brain. So I really don't know. I want to see if anyone ever uses that reserved brain ID stuff at all. What was it called? So it looks like the reason we were using that is because when controller input comes in, we needed a way of figuring out what controller it was. Right? So it looks like the reason for this is just to have a way of knowing what controller would control which brain. And that seems okay, I guess. I don't think there's a reason why we wouldn't do that. So I think that just means, like, when we create a world, we probably should just make the last use entity be the... Oh. Which we did. Where is that at? Reserved brain ID. There it is. So we actually did do that. So somehow, the bug is not quite that. Somehow, even though we aren't picking any of the reserved brain IDs, or we shouldn't be anyway, picking the reserved brain IDs, right? Somehow we still ended up with the correct brain ID in here, right? Somehow we still end up with that. So I take it back. This is not coming from here, presumably. I mean, we don't know for sure, right? But presumably this is not coming. It's not coming from last use entity storage index. No, there's still a bug, chat. You're not off the hook here. You still have to find the bug just because it's not that bug. So I think we probably want to double check that this is true. So I'm not sure we actually want to do that yet, but we do need some other coherent explanation for why we were able to put pieces into this thing that has a brain ID of value of 1, right? And furthermore, there should be more than one thing going into that slot at this point as well, because like, or this got overwritten. Either because there would have also been an entity for the head. So the only two things that could have happened are the entity for the head had its pieces overwritten with snake pieces, right? Or there are two and it replaced the one that would normally have a brain slot. So what I'm kind of interested in knowing here is in like Handmade world mode where it does the brain unpacking part. I guess I don't know exactly where that's happening. So right here, this. So in here, we don't check to see if there was already something in this slot, right? So I guess what I would say is this looks like something that could also be part of the problem, right? So we could be doing something where we are getting a brain and we don't actually, and we, yeah, like if the part where the brain gets created, if the part where the brain gets created is like not working correctly, so here's us checking. Here's us checking for brain hash slots, right? Get hash from ID. We pass in an ID value there. We use whatever the storage index dot value is for the brain. We loop through the brain hash by probing linearly. This does not seem like very good code. I would just like to say that I don't think this code is very good. So I would say that this is a bit of an issue. So if we take a look at the sim region, you can see the brain hash in here, right? And we're linear probing the brain hash. I'm assuming we clear it every time. Yep. So we clear it every time, and then we go through here and we just linearly probe the brain hash to find one that we can use. And, you know, essentially what we do is we say, if there was nothing here, we'll use it. If there was something here and it happens to be the one we're looking for, well, we'll use that as well, right? And then that's it. We then say, okay, we will assume that we got this thing. I'm not quite sure what this is about. So this is just saying, look, if there wasn't a brain in there, then we use one that's in here. Sorry, no. We use one that's in here. And this is just a bit overcomplicated at this point as well, but I guess the reason we did this is so it would be faster to clear it, right? So we use one that's in here, and we just record that fact into the brain hash so that it'll be looked up again. That's basically it. And we do the mark occupied on that hash. So I'm not horribly offended by this. It just seems like overcomplicated at this point because I think it's gone through enough iterations that's like it really could be much more straightforward than it is now. But I don't see any obvious problems with it yet. It gets cleared every time and then the brains are assembled, so in theory that should have been okay. And also, even if it wasn't okay, it wouldn't explain why we were able to get an entity that had the right brain ID and the different pieces there. So if we go look for Snake again from Metal Gear Solid, So there's a couple of different things here. So I'm also wondering because we know that our transactional occupy thing, like our is occupied thing, we broke, right? And that was kind of on our list to go things, like our list of things to go fix. And it's a bit weird, right, that that's happening. So we kind of want to know what's up with that. And I do wonder if there's any way inside that you can have something weird happen. I still don't know how you end up with an entity that has this value for the brain, though. That's the reason why I thought we had the bug, because it seems like the only way that should really happen is if you called add snake and the add brain call for the brain ID, right, gave you back a 1. One thing that's a little odd is why T-Bob and DT-Bob have float min. So do we do that anywhere? So that would be F32 min or R32 min, right? So how did that get set to float min? I don't even see float min on here actually, because float min is actually a different thing. It's the smallest possible value representable by a float, which we don't really have. So like, how did these get set to those values? Because that doesn't make a lot of sense either, right? I want to look and see. I would like to know if other what other parts here have that. Yeah, so nobody else has that. So that seems really suspicious as well. That's just really weird. I don't know why it has those strange values for DDT Bob. So how many people have hit point max? So in init hit points, it is set, and it looks like that is the only place where it is set. So in theory, the only people who can have this be true are people who have init hit points called on them. So who has that? There's the function itself. Here is the snake call, and here is the Monstar call, right? And we know it's not going to be a monster. Okay. So we don't call this on anybody else. So we know for sure that this is a snake head. Like, that's definitely true. Because not only does it have the pieces from the snake head, but it also has the hit point max from the snake head. So there's only two possible things that could have happened. One is that somehow we called ads, we executed the add snakehead stuff, and when it went to fill in the brain ID, it filled in a 1 erroneously. Or somehow we took a snakehead that had the brain ID value associated with it filled out properly, but then we overwrote it somehow. So like we corrupted the value somehow. Again, I literally can't think of how something that precise would happen, Because it's not like it wrote garbage over the whole thing. It literally would have had to have pinpointed that. You know what I mean? And I don't see anything weird going on here. Like, it seems like the add brain function is very straightforward. It seems like it would do what you would expect. I don't really want to kill this run of the game, but I think I'm going to have to. And I also want to know if I can reproduce this. So I'm going to try a couple things. First things first. I'm going to step into all calls to add snake. And I want to see what all of the snakes get for their brain ID. Because first, let's just check to see what happens. All right, so nothing particularly strange happening there. Let me just make sure. And let's look at how it is set. Okay. So I don't see any an initial way that this could possibly have set the brain ID to something else, right? So that seems pretty straightforward. So we had to have called this, and then we have to somehow be overwriting the brain ID part of it incorrectly. Like the copy doesn't work properly, or something like this. So in the actual entity structure, if we go look at how it lines up, it's the first three things. Yeah. And when we do our copy inside the sim region, like doing the unpack there, is it inside world? So, there's nothing particularly weird about what happens here, right? So we do the pack. The copy is pretty straightforward. There's nothing strange about it, really. So I don't see a lot of ways that that could have been corrupted either, right? Nothing weird there. I mean, this is all really pretty straightforward. And you know, like in theory, if we had something that happened here, like when you called add entity, if it gave you back the entity for the head here. So like if this call here somehow gave you back, but you would see it immediately. You wouldn't, that would be when you first added the player. So even that can't really be true, right? So that can't happen either because you'd see it immediately. You wouldn't have to wait till you hop down to where the other ones were, right? This part's a little odd, but again, shouldn't really have anything to do with it because if start was never pressed, well, I mean, yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure about that part. This seems a bit janky, but again, not sure I see what this would have to do with anything. Like that just doesn't seem relevant anyway. What is this? The heck? Dude. So wait a minute, are you telling me right now that this isn't a bug? This was a thing we added as a feature at some point just for fun? Hold on. I think we may have just spent this entire time thinking there was a bug just because we don't work on this game very often. It looks like we added the ability to like pick up a head by hitting return, right? It looks like we've got code to do this. Hold on a second. Yep. Oops. So we did that on purpose. My bad. So yeah, that happened. And you can swap them. So I can like, right? So we have the ability to swap heads in the game, and I just forgot that you could do that. And the only reason that it wasn't obvious, I guess, is because when we did it, we make the pieces for the head currently. So like if we had done, oh man. Yeah, this is the problem with only programming once a week on something. After a while, you forget everything you added. So, like, if we had done this, No wonder it was really hard to figure out why there was a bug. There was no bug. Chat, you're finally off the hook. Of course, you should have told me that. Like, so I don't really want to let you off the hook. I feel like you should have. You should have told me that. But it's okay. So if we had instead here, oops. If instead here, instead of this connect piece, stuff that was happening here, so you can see the way this thing connects the body piece nonsense here, like headpiece thing. I think really what we would do for that feature is we would have had like headpiece like this. And then this would have added the head onto the head, onto the head entity, right? And oops. Yeah. I think, I'm not sure. Why is that complaining? What did I do wrong? Headpiece. I'm not sure why that is complaining. Connect piece, headpiece. Oh, because we need to tell it. Yeah. We need to tell it that that's on the head as well. Sorry. So like we can't keep moving the head way out in that direction anymore because it disaggregates from the hero, obviously. But I think that's like what we were either planning to do or used to do when we added that feature, right? So the head was linked onto the separate entity. So if you like went over here and like did that, you swap, right? You swap heads with whatever it is that there was, whatever it is that you had. As long as it was in a radius of 10, it looked like it would just search for anything that was a head swap, right? So that's actually, I kind of like that. I mean, that seems cool, actually. I am in favor of this. So I think we're going to leave that in. I like that a lot. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. I don't think we get rid of that, right? I think that's something that probably stays in. And so I think all we really want to do at that point is the head itself has that sort of leaning problem that we would sort of want to fix. And I guess I don't really know. So when we look at the head, you can see here that it kind of does some computation about the way the head is attached there. And this is the problem, I would assume. So like probably this just needs to get modified by something. Probably, I don't know. Let's go ahead and run this, and we can just edit the code in real time till we get something that we like. So we're also got a Z offset there, which I don't think we necessarily want. I'm also not sure why does it disappear. Why are we getting a disappearing head on moving forward like that? So clutch is not happening. Clutch was only when we were holding down the space bar, right? So that's the clutch thing, right? And that's obviously too much anyway. So you know, this would be something way less than that. Yeah, so that would be the delta we would want. So you probably want like, you know, 0.3 plus or something. I'm not sure. And then I just don't understand quite what's going on here. It's like we've got some issue where when we're going to the left, we lose the head placement is borked, right? Now I don't know if that's actually true, so I just want to double check and nerf the entire expression temporarily, because it might be it's from somewhere else. No, it's from there. So for some reason, like, you can't have this DDP value coming through here, so something's totally wrong with that DDP value. So like, this process has an issue, maybe a bug with the way it gets normalized, right? And does it get used anywhere else? Not really. So it looks like this value is kind of just busted. So let's take a look at what's happening there. So I think this equation then is fine. You know, modulo a little bit of tuning we might want to do. But it looks like the DDP value is just totally wrong. Also, hop requested is like something that goes down here, so we're not going to do that right now. So this DDP value, if we look at what happens, it's taking the con hero DDP, which is this. It's looking for the length of that, which seems fine. It's looking to see how long it is. If it's a particular length, it goes ahead and does a square root and inverts that. So it's just trying to get a way to length, like change the length back to a normal, right? I have no idea why you double normalize that. So what you can see here is like, right, we take the length of this thing. We say if the length of it is, you know, if it's non-zero basically, we normalize it, and then we can change DDP normal into an actual normal. We then say if the length, like the motion, like the speed, right, is greater than 1, we want to normalize that as well. So we compute both the normal version and we normalize the thing if it's greater than 1, which means we're trying to produce a value that becomes like 1-sized when it's large, right? I have no idea what we were doing there, but I guess it's like you want to look at the acceleration for the guy, and like I guess we allowed the acceleration to be up higher than 1, and if we wanted it lower than 1, then we would just shrink it down. But if it was higher than 1, we wanted to clamp it. So this is basically like a clamping function, right? Why that would behave differently when you were moving to the left than moving to the right, I'm not sure. So that's a little strange. That's a little strange. So all I'm going to do here, we've got this hopping, right? I'm going to recompile in the problem, which is this right here, so that we lose the head when we go left. I'm going to take this out. So the thing that normalizes the DDP is now gone. So it looks like it has nothing to do with that clause. So we're not hitting this, or if we are, it doesn't matter, right? So it literally has something to do with the con hero DDP, like moving leftward. Yeah? Which seems kind of strange, because I'm not sure how that would pose a problem, but evidently it does. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try modifying this slightly. So instead of putting DDP in this place, I'm going to put con hero DDP, right? So I'm going to use direct, oops. So I'm going to use this value directly, like what it gets constructed here, right? So that now I know I'm just using that value vanilla. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try putting in some various values here. So for example, if I look at what the controller actually sets the DDP value to, so you can see here that like here are the various values, right? So this is the one that we expect to be bad, -1 here and 0 here. Yeah. So I'm assuming that now I could do that. So I could just place -1 here and 0 here, and that I would just get the head missing all the time, right? And it is. And then I would expect to be able to move it to the plus side and have the head reappear, which also I can. So that's pretty weird, right? Like, I don't know why that would ever happen. So my guess is that, oh, hold on a second. I just heard a puss. Come on, come on, come on. That's a good puss. Sorry, I had to let the puss in. Here is Puss. This is Molly Bean. This is our sweet puss, Molly. She's a very good puss. She likes to be involved in programming activities, and it is probably time for brushing. Do you want to be brushed? Yeah, of course you do. It's important for good furs, for high-end furs. Nice soft coat. Yeah, that's a good puss. That's a good puss. Okay. That's a good puss. That's a good puss. Okay, so what we've got, do you want to go on my shoulder? Want to go on the shoulder? Okay. So what we've got here is we've got a, like presumably some kind of knock-on effect, I'm guessing, because it would seem a little weird if setting it to a -1 there could actually cause this problem directly. That seems odd. I mean, it's possible, but it just doesn't seem all that likely. So I'm guessing that some unrelated value is just put into a bad, like there's some kind of a like a downstream computation is what I'm assuming. Wait, what you doing, puss? Okay. I'm assuming there's like a downstream computation in this case that has some, when it happens to be just exactly that -1, right? That causes a problem we can't actually see happening. But if we look down, like if we go inspect sort of the derived values that use like head p, for example, which is the value that we're setting here, if we find things that are related to head p, we may find that there's something obvious going wrong there, right? So you can see there are multiple places where this comes into play. And so we would expect that, like, maybe, for example, this head delta value here is a problem. Maybe the head distance value here is a problem. Again, we just got to kind of look and see. Sorry, I got to reset the microphone after the puss. The puss adjusts the microphone often. What do you think, Puss? What do you think? What do you think, Puss? All right. So anyway, we want to look at the head P here, and we just want to see like what things are related to it. So we have the head distance, for example, that's computed, and the head distance does do like some stuff here where we map it into a range and we changed this DDT bob based on what we see. So, you know, whatever this value actually is here, we produce, you know, some kind of a clamped value from it. I don't see a lot of problem there, but, you know, what I would do now is I'd say we've got this reliably, you know, in a state where we can turn the head off by setting this -1. So now let's just go and disable anything that could be related to that, right? So if we take head P here and we just say, okay, like this thing, this head distance, where we set the body DDT. Well, that's the body though, so I don't see how that could really be related. But whatever, we'll remove it anyway. So this way we know we're not setting that DDT bob value, right? And then I'm also going to remove this head delta computation. And I'm just going to get rid of everything that's related to the head P at all. So in here, you can see there's more, but those are outside of the actual hero brain function. So here you can see like the head has returned, which would suggest that this head delta value is the problem in this case. So I think we can put this back in. Right. And now we just have to focus on what is going on with this head delta value. So in terms of where this is used, it's literally in only 2 places, right? And this just looks like nonsense. So it's taking the head delta and it's adjusting the Y. So that's what's probably happening here, is it's totally corrupting something to do with the body's y-axis so that it can't place the head at the correct location or something like this, right? But we'll see. So let's leave this where it is, right? And say that the head delta is not going to be a thing. It's just not going to happen at the moment. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to put this DDP value back in. So and then that solves our particular problem there. And so then all we really have to do is go, oh, I see. So probably this head delta thing, this was trying to do some work here where we were attempting to use the actual displacement of the head from the body, which we expected to be quite large, right? we probably by making it so that it only moves a little bit relative to the body, by putting that 0.1 maybe, well, no, it could be just that anything was causing the problem. So maybe it was the problem was there the whole time. But we know that it has some effect in here, so that two head delta lines. So I'm going to remove this, and we're going to narrow it down to which line it actually is. So here's us moving, and you can see it still happens. I'm going to get rid of the floor displace. I'm going to get rid of the y-axis. And so it sure looks like the main problem anyway is with the body y-axis setting. Now, why the body y-axis setting getting set to something different would cause the head to disappear is kind of confusing, because that, you would think that the y-axis would do, if it was warped enough to make the head disappear, you would just expect the body to be drawn improperly as well. I mean, or at least that's what I would have expected, right? But that's not actually what's happening here. So, you know, we're able to get the head to disappear with this body y-axis setting, that somehow does not actually cause the body itself to warp very much. My guess there is that we don't use the body y-axis. Maybe we use some other thing, so that like when we draw the body, it just doesn't inside the pieces when we draw them. I seem to recall we added a thing that allowed us to just say what axes you were using. Like, do you want to actually use those axes or not? I would assume that that is what's happening here. So this head delta XY bit here is going to pick up whatever that stuff was for the y-axis, for the body y-axis, right? So we know that if we do this, where we just have the y-axis set to nothing in particular, right? It's just regular y. That we get the correct behavior. And so the only question here was, do we care about the other part? Now, since we don't seem to even use it, I would say we can probably just get rid of this. I don't know what floor displace does anymore, because, again, it's been so long since we've looked at this code. It was kind of mostly just stuff we threw in there for placeholder anyway. But if you look at floor displace, it looks like that's mostly there just to figure out if you wanted to like make the thing bob with the head bob, right? So I think that's fine as it is, probably. So I think that's all we really need to do, and now we have our swappable heads back, which seems good, right? Okay, so everything seems to be working here. The hero can hop in, have a little visit with one of the orphans. We can go back down the stairs. We can steal ahead. And go back and have a conversation. And it's all fine. All right. All right. So we still have the lighting bug to look for, so we're not quite done yet, but at least we're a little closer. I think we've got all the tag stuff done, so we're really just looking at lighting now. We can do a brief Q&A before we stop. The goal is The head stealing feature, by the way, kind of just has to go in the game now that it caused that much consternation. So like we're gonna have to just make that be a gameplay thing. Like that's just what's gonna happen. Come on up. Come on up. That's a good puss. Okay. That was literally not a bug. It was a feature. I guess we must have just either someone asked a question about it and I said, sure, we can do that. Or sometime I was like, let's test it. And we added that. So I'm not sure what, yeah, I don't know why that happened, but it did. The coding environment is 4Coder, and we use Visual Studio's compiler. The Linux branch has the debug release bug as well, and it triggers all the time I set up. Okay, great. That's very good because the hope is that it's not like a code gen bug. So like hopefully we should be able to find it. We'll look at it next weekend. So it was a Q&A request. Okay. Well, it's a feature now. Like I'm going ahead and making that part of the game. So you can steal heads and the heads will do things, I guess. George, I don't know the answer to that question, but it is true that switching to 4Coder Flurry means that the build is getting called in a potentially different way. Because before it was called with my build thing, and now it is called with 4Coder's build thing. And so it may very well be that 4Coder is canonicalizing those now and wasn't before, which sucks because I don't actually want it to do that, but it may very well be doing that. So if you're talking about the background doing a weird thing, that's actually OBS being a pile of crap, which is unsurprising. It has nothing to do with 4Coder, and I have no idea how to fix it. OBS is just a gigantic pile, and that's just kind of how it goes. At the moment, what ends up happening is anything that just has like a constant color background like that sometimes just freaks out. I've had it for capturing like Visual Studio as well. And I do not know fundamentally what it is. Who knows? I don't know if it's DDR Boxman striking again, or what it is, but it's an OBS bug or a black magic bug. I have never seen it happen in the actual OBS window, so it seems like it's a problem. So I don't think it's DDR Boxman this time. I assume it's like a codec problem or something with the part where it actually does the compression. And I do not know what is going on. It's just, we looked at the OBS code, right? We now know it's a complete pile. So who the heck knows what's going on in there? Something fantastic, I'm sure. But how we would go about fixing that, I have no idea, right? And so, like something in the 200 layers of code that happen between calling Blackmagic to get the thing and handing it through 17 different FFmpeg plugin nonsense. Who the heck knows? Something's broken, but I have no idea how that's ever going to get fixed, right? It probably just never will, or if it does get fixed, it'll get fixed accidentally, right? I also don't know if we can update OBS because I don't know if anyone ever fixed the DDR Boxman problem. So it may be that the latest versions of OBS have the DDR Boxman bug fixed, in which case we could try just upgrading to OBS to see if someone accidentally fixed the bug in the codecs or whatever is happening for that weird strobing effect. Again, that's assuming that it's not a bug in the Blackmagic capture. It could be that I'm just not noticing it, like it's happening and I'm just focused on the other screen so I don't see it happening, and it is actually happening in the capture, but at least I have not actually seen that yet. So I haven't actually seen the weird strobing effect happening in the actual live view. It only seems to come out in the actual stream recording. So it has to like pass through the codec first, I think. Someone asked if the swap would work on the orphans as well. Not currently. We probably will want to do that now that we know it's a feature, but the reason it doesn't do that is because the orphans at the moment don't actually have heads, I don't think. So the orphans at the moment are just like a static piece of geometry. So we should probably just create the orphans as actual little entities, and then they would be head swappable, yeah. So we should definitely do that, but... Well, again, stunt coder, that's purely conjectural though, right? Like you have no idea what's happening there. It may be that it just only happens sometimes because there's tons of windows that don't have the problem and then sometimes they do, right? So, I mean, how would we know that black would make a difference? All right. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. So if you know, Duff G, no, it's not Twitch. So this happens in the actual videos recorded from OBS. You don't have to stream through Twitch. So Twitch is not adding that artifact. I mean, Twitch may also be adding the artifact since I don't watch the Twitch stream. I don't know if there's like more artifacts, but I get the artifacts from in the locally saved OBS recording. So no Twitch involved. Like even if I don't even have streaming turned on, if I'm just recording locally, that strobing artifact happens. Right. So it's something to do with the way that they've modified the recording in OBS, or it's a Blackmagic capture problem, and I don't know, like, the optimal thing would be if I could do a recording and get the strobing to happen with one that I watch the OBS window for the whole time, so that I can verify that it doesn't happen in the capture. It only happens in the codec. But I can't actually, until I've done that, I don't actually know for sure that it isn't a capture problem, because it could be either or. So, is there any scheduled ending? No. We have not scheduled any ending. At the very least, we now know that we will not stop the series until we actually can swap heads with the orphans. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for an episode of Handmade Hero. It's been a pleasure coding with you, as always. If you would like to follow the series at home, you can always pre-order the game on handmadehero.org, and it comes with all the source code so you can follow along at home. Maybe you would like to go try to find the lighting bug. Supposedly, it's reproable at home. Folks have said it is. So, now's your chance to try hunting down a pretty hard bug, right? I'll be back next weekend to do that. We seem to have gotten rid of all the other things that we needed to fix up with respect to tags. Our trees are back. What was the other thing we did? The cutscenes. Couldn't think of the word. Our cutscenes are back. So all that stuff is good. And so all we got to do now is track down that lighting bug, and then I think we're on to new features. And we'll be back to do that next weekend. That's it for today. Until then, have fun coding, everyone, and I'll see everyone on the internet. Take it easy, everybody.